My camera. How about them Giants? How about them Giants? How about them Giants?
Woo! What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Giants Rush, where we talk Giants football 52 weeks of the year. Glad you guys could pop in with us. I see you guys piling in the room now. What's up, Daniel? Hey, we're here to talk Giants football. We're really glad that you guys come in here every single week. You listen to the audio files. You guys hit the YouTube channel because we're doing it for you guys, right? It's the community getting together, talk about Giants football, hoping for better things to come. It has been a dismal year. The Giants take a beating against the Falcons when rookie Penix from Washington comes in and looks pretty dang good once he got warmed up. I got Chris and Truth, and of course I got Ryan Dunleavy here to let's talk the state of the Giants. What's happening? Is it going to get any better? Can it get any better? How did we get here? Plenty of things to talk about. Hope you guys are bringing your questions along the way. Let's bring in the guys. Let's bring in Truth, who I haven't seen in ever. What's up, Truth?
Oh, boy. You're not kidding, Craig. What a dismal year this has been.
Yeah. For the 100-year anniversary, which I was super excited about. I showed off those Super Bowl rings that the Giants sent me, right? High hopes, that they were going to be a gritty team, and all the wheels have fallen off. We've gone over the cliff, into the swamp, and somewhere we're lost, in the Meadowlands with the worst team in football. We're going to talk to Ryan Dunleavy because he's going to give us some insight, or we hope so. And I'm going to bring in Chris, and you guys have been doing the preview show, so I haven't seen you guys very often. So, Chris, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Craig. Good to see you, man.
Chris, I'm going to break your heart here. Ready?
Yeah.
Since 1988, I've only missed 7 games, right, with my season tickets. Against the Ravens was the 8th. I had no funerals. I had no weddings. I literally chose not to go, and I left my seats empty for the first time.
Wow.
For the first time since I've been going full time, I did not show. I did not show, and it felt weird. But Chris, I'm thinking about doing it again.
You mean Sunday? Oh, I'm skipping Sunday. I'm skipping Sunday too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mark Thompson's in the room. What's up, my friend?
Mark. Yeah, don't blame me.
Yeah. It's really hard to do. Well, let's bring in Ryan because Ryan's always a good friend of the show. He usually comes on once in the summer, once during the season. We haven't had him on. Now it's the end of the season, so we can get some ideas. And me and Ryan talked a little bit behind the scenes, and he's got a lot of good points that the media does take a bad rap on a lot of stuff. They're just doing their job, right? So we'll get into a little bit of that. And Ryan's always fun with us. I told him that I skipped dinner with the family, so he's already written me the riot act that I skipped the family dinner to hang out with him. What's up, Mr. Dunleavy?
What's up?
You know what's up.
Not the Giants.
Nothing's looking up.
No.
Well,
the Giants.
Ryan,
Position's up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I haven't seen Chris and Truth in a while. They do the Wednesday show called Rush Hour, which they do all the preview stuff, right? So I wanted to have them in here, last show of the year. And of course, you've been kind enough to hang out with us. And you were out in the summertime, and we had lots of, we were optimistic.
You were optimistic.
Yeah.
I tried to warn you this was coming. I threw all the cold water on everybody.
I know, but as a fan, right, you got to be somewhat optimistic, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I'm not going to pinpoint this to one specific thing, but like, as you just said, you kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of had this feeling, how did we get here? Like
March 7th, 2023. That's how you got here. March 7th, 2023. when the Giants decided they were going to hold the line at $19 million guaranteed to Saquon Barkley on a 3-year contract, he would not budge off asking for probably $24 million guaranteed at that time. They were arguing over average annual value of the contract, which wasn't even what was important to him, but was a miscommunication between the Giants front office at the time and his agent at the time. They weren't even arguing. They weren't even negotiating the right things. So you end up not giving him $5 million guaranteed over the course of 3 years. And so you end up pivoting to give Daniel Jones $82 million guaranteed over 3 years, where if you had just met Saquon in the middle or just met what he wanted, $24 million guaranteed, you would have had him. You would have franchise tagged Daniel Jones. And then he may or may not have even been the quarterback this year after, the way last year played out. So how did you end up in this situation? Right there. You committed $82 million to your quarterback, which then made you go all in. Joe Shane has admitted this. He sped up his rebuild. He traded for Darren Waller. He signed Bobby Okereke. He abandoned his long-term vision because the Giants were coming off a playoff victory and thought they had their quarterback. And so he sped things up. He got away from his plan, and they picked their quarterback. That's who they wanted. I hate when people say this regime didn't get to pick a quarterback. They did. They picked Daniel Jones. He's theirs. They adopted him. And they hardlined Saquon Barkley because of positional value. And had they just done it the other way, then they'd have Saquon Barkley in the second year of a 3-year contract. And if he was great, they could keep him for another year. And if he was bad, they could cut ways with him after this season, and they'd be free of Daniel Jones, and they'd have just as much cap space as they do anyway. And they might have a solution at quarterback. They might not, but they'd have a better roster, right? So how'd they get here right now? The roster is not very good, and it all started on March 7th, 2023, with Daniel over Saquon, and then the subsequent win now moves that followed.
Truth. You and I have talked about this a couple times about Barkley, right? If Barkley came back though, right? Like, and again, I'm not advocating for him or not for him. I'm saying, but if Barkley came back, right? Mm-hmm. Like some of that money that they freed up from Barkley, went to sign a Luminor or Runyon, right? Like he's really not going to have the same results that he had with. The Eagles got the third best line in football. So, did it? Okay, so we wouldn't have a Luminor and we wouldn't have Runyon. He'd be running behind a bad line. So,
no, you would not have. Hold on, you would not have both of them. You might not have one of those guys.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. You might be. You might have got Runyon. You might not got a Luminor. You alluded to them negotiating over the wrong things. Was that when they had Rock Nation? When he had Rock Nation as his agent?
Correct. Yes.
And then he fired.
They were not even negotiating over the things that were important to him. Yes. So yeah. Like I said, it's just yes. And then I could go on. Obviously, we got to talk about things besides Saquon. But yes. The Giants would not be much better with Saquon. They didn't win with Saquon. They'd have 1 or 2 more wins maybe with Saquon. Would he be an MVP candidate? No. He'd be running down a much worse offensive line. But, guys, there's a reason. The Giants have been bad for 6 of 7 years. There's a reason this year feels so much worse, right? It's so much worse. It's why we weren't really talking about quitting and effort. We were talking about quitting and effort in September with Deonte Banks. Saquon's impact in the locker room is the thing that the Giants totally did not recognize as a real thing. Like positional value, running backs, it was an arbitrary, faceless name. Like this is what a running back does. This is his protection. There was no personality to it, no feel of the decision. No, how is this going to affect the locker room? I have had conversations with half a dozen guys in the locker room that'll tell you that is where things went off the rails. Like they didn't respect him. if they didn't respect him and how he played and all he did for this franchise and how he did everything the right way, are they going to respect me when it's my time? Are they like, what? Why did guys play through? Why didn't he quit last year? Well, Saquon was out here on a expiring contract playing every week through injuries. How could that guy quit if Saquon wasn't going to quit? Yeah. So they just totally missed the boat on him. And that's where, if you're asking me where it went wrong, totally undervaluing him as a player and as a person and as a leader and as the face of the franchise. And again, he would not have 1,800 yards. They would not have 12 wins, but the thing with the operation would be more functional. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And it's interesting that you said that because, any other player that, it might not have mattered. It was Saquon Barkley with the impact that he has on that team. Chris.
Yeah.
They didn't like that Nick McLeod got cut, but it's not Saquon Barkley, right? Or, they didn't, everybody saw it was a business decision not to sign Xavier McKinney at $17 million. Barkley was the heart and soul of the team, Chris.
Yeah, even Julian Love. But, I know we're talking about, I'm so beyond this whole Barkley thing because, to your point, it wouldn't have been the same what's going on in Washington, but the leadership, that's the big thing. My question is right now.
Let me say, hold on, you got me started because you just mentioned two things. One, McKinney's not the same. He was a very good player. He was not a universal leader. Not every teammate loved what Xavier McKinney was. He's media loved him. Some teammates loved him. He was not for everybody. Some teammates loved him. He was not for everybody. He's a terrific player. No.
I was agreeing with you that Barkley just made such an impact that they looked at McKinney like, hey, look, it's a business decision.
Correct.
Everybody loved Barkley.
Correct. And then the other one, McLeod, is a big deal, guys. It's a big deal. He's not a terrific player. You can make an argument. Greg Stroman is a better corner. Again, it's the locker room. It's what he meant. Nick McLeod's two best friends on the team were Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. Like, if those guys value you for $1 million, you should probably be kept. You're not that much of a different player than Art Green somebody would make an argument that Art Green is a better gunner than Nick McLeod. Who cares? Like, who cares? It's 6-1, half dozen of the other. And what he was in the locker room mattered. And this regime has built a team that upstairs doesn't have a feel for downstairs.
To your point, Ryan, I mean, Nick McLeod, for all intents and purposes, is a special teamer, and he went in and played corner. And to get rid of him for $1 million, like you're saying, just to pull guys off the street and off the practice squad to replace him with, just seems idiotic. And just another Rubik's Cube move with the roster. We can go on and on about the Azudus, the Dante Miller, who's still on the practice squad, who still isn't up with the team. We should be playing probably at this point. But those kind of head-scratching moves can go back to last year, Eric Gray catching punts, Eric Gray on kickoffs, things like this, not addressing different.
My number one thing on the regime would be Shane and Daboll. And you just mentioned a bunch of the guys. How many times have you guys heard a coach say, we're going to put our guys in position to have success? And you're like, okay, that's like giving 110%, like snooze, like, oh, no, duh. You're going to put your guys who wouldn't want to put their guys in position of success.
Coach speak.
This regime put their players in positions to fail. That's what they did. Zudu, left tackle, he was set up to fail. Eric Gray, punt returner, set up to fail. Adoree Jackson moved to the slot in 2023, position to fail. Like, that's what they did. There's just no other way to say it. They put guys in positions to fail.
I said to Chris earlier in the week, I called Chris because I was losing my mind. Like, I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but you're in the building every day, or at least pretty close to every day. I feel like this regime tends to shelf guys, and then you never hear from them again. Like Belton started off the year where they said it was his job to lose, and he just disappeared. I'm fine with anybody getting beat out, but you never heard anything. It's Belton's job to lose, but Newbin was there. Daniel Bellinger just disappeared from the team, right? Like the guy was having a great year, broke his eye socket, came back and played, was going to be a tight end one. You bring in Waller. Then Waller like basically craps the bed on you and like gives up and quits. And then you don't make him tight end one. You draft his replacement. Like, I don't get it, right? We talk about Turbo. Chris and I were talking about Turbo Miller. Like, at this point in time, why is Turbo Miller not up with the team?
You already know who Singletary is. Give Miller some touches.
A couple things. One, I'm fine with you upgrade. Like, if you think, like, I don't want, one thing I give Daboll credit for is he has a quick pull. Like, he does not stick with guys who are like for endless amounts of time who are not the guy. Like, at week 1, he makes week 1 to week 2, he makes big lineup changes all 3 years, right? Kenny Golladay, start week 1, see ya. Mark Lewinsky, see ya. Like, Marcus McKeithen started week 2 last year because he was done with Lewinsky. Like, he has a quick pull. I like that. I'm fine with you upgrading guys. I'm just not sure they're upgrades. Like, is Theo Johnson better than Daniel Bellinger? Like, they had almost the exact same rookie seasons. I'm not sure that was an upgrade. I have no problem with you drafting over guys. Like, this isn't this isn't the Supreme Court. You don't get a lifetime appointment. So, like, I get it, but I'm just not sure that they actually have draft. Like, they replaced Belton with Newman. I'm not sure Newman's better than him. I'm just not. So, I know everybody loves Newman because he had a big hit or two and he played every snap until he got hurt. But, like, where were the game-changing plays? At least Dane Belton gets the ball.
Yeah, they're different players, right? And you know what's interesting, too, is that you said he pulls guys quickly. Maybe, and we'll get into the defensive coordinator thing in a minute. Truth, did you have a question you wanted to jump in here with?
No, I was just going to ask Ryan, like, from what I'm hearing, what you're saying, from I think I'm hearing from you, is that they've lost the locker room a long time ago. Not just.
I don't know if it's lost the locker room as much as, like, that. I know people love that statement. Like, I don't know if they've lost the locker room, like, because I think the guys that are out there playing are playing hard, but I just think they don't know. There's not a lot of communication. I know guys have said to me they don't know why. I'm not going to name names, but some guys don't know why their rules are what they are or what they need to improve to get on the field. They don't feel like they've been communicated. There's a lot of head scratching. When do we go for fourth down? Why don't we go for fourth down? There's not a lot of players understanding. They don't hate him, right? I've seen teams that hate their coach. They don't hate this guy. So it's not like we're not going to play for them. We want to run them out of town. Like, I think Darius Slayton was like, I don't think any changes are coming. Like, guys still like these guys. So, like, I
really feel that way?
I don't think they dislike them. No, it'd be hard to dislike them. Daboll treats them pretty well. He doesn't like run them into the ground in practice. He gives them days off. It's not like a brutal training camp. It's not he never calls anybody out. He doesn't say anything, so he can never call anybody out.
Yeah.
So he's a hard guy not to like. I would think they like him. I just think they're confused by his coaching expertise. Let's put it that way. But lost the locker room would be a bit strong. I think, first of all, only a coach can lose the locker room. I do not think that has happened. Does the locker room care for the front office? I don't think so at all. But I've heard Carl Banks say on his podcast, like, a lot of locker rooms don't like the front office. That's the idea. They control your money. So,
yeah.
Now, are they making decisions jointly, Shane and Daboll, when it comes to roster moves, like Chris pointed out with Miller and not bringing him up? You think, is that something they both talk about, or is that strictly Daboll doing that, maybe wanting some guy?
No, I think everything's collaborative, which I think is why I don't understand the concept of splitting them, like of the keeping Shane and letting go of Daboll. Either keep them both or get rid of them both. But I'm not sure I really understand the split them up, especially when for 3 years all I've heard every time is it's collaborative. It's collaborative. We discuss it. It's cohesive. We're on the same page. Like, you can't say that for 3 years and then all of a sudden split the baby. I don't really understand that. I bought it for 3 years that it's a joint decision. So now all of a sudden we're going to say one guy's doing a better job than the other guy. That's a hard sell to me.
Sure. Well, what's the vibe like in the building? Because losing creates a lot of animosity. So what's the vibe in the building?
Dead. Dead is the word. It is as dead a building, especially the locker room, because that's where we spend the most time. But dead. Can't wait for the season to be over. Dead. I won't say hopeless, because there's always the future and there's the draft, and they do have some young pieces that people that executives and scouts in the building are excited about. So I won't say hopeless, but dead, like dread, maybe dead and dread, like to just get to the end, get to the finish line.
Okay.
The locker room is a ghost town. Part of that is all the key players that are injured. Another part of that is a lot of players during the hour-long media access just play cards, so they're not really available. I don't know if they don't want to take accountability anymore or whatnot. Tired of answering the same questions. I get it. Like, you're at your locker. I'm going to come up to you. I'm going to say, why are you guys bad at this? Why are you guys bad at this? Do you think your coach should be retained? Do you think your general manager could be there? Guys just don't want to answer that anymore. They've been answering it. Guys, this is the problem with going 2-15. This season's been over since Halloween. They've been asked.
That's usually how it goes.
If you're like some other team, like maybe you're just now out of it, and like, I don't know. Say you're like, the
Cardinals.
The Cowboys got eliminated yesterday, right? The Cowboys got eliminated yesterday. Now all those questions come up. Or the Cardinals. Now all those questions come up. Giants have been answering these questions since October, man. I get it. Like, it's just get to the finish line.
I mean, it's a lot of interesting stuff too. All right, so I know how we got here. The vibe in the building is dead. I don't even know. Like, listen, we've had you on a ton. We've been talking to you for 3 years. We never put you on the spot because we know you're not going to put yourself in that spot. But you got to have a feeling a little bit on like what's going to happen. Like, I know you said they're together, right? They're a pair.
No, that's what I think it should be. I don't. Yes. Go ahead. Ask your question.
The question is yes. I think a lot of people agree it's all or nothing. They both stay, they both go. I think a lot of people do feel that way. What's the probability of that happening?
I think the most likely thing to happen is Joe Shane stays and Brian Daboll goes. That's what I think.
I agree with you.
Is the most likely thing to happen. You saw it on the back page of the Post last week. That is probably the most likely scenario. John Mara said in March that they didn't have to be a package deal. They certainly don't have to be a package deal now. I think I have a very hard time making a case for that. If I was going to make a case for that, I'm not even sure I believe what I'm about to say, but you could say that Daboll has made it so that he is tough to work for by the way his relationship with Wink blew up, the way he fired Thomas McGahee, the way he scapegoated Mike Kafka, and now he's out of people to blame. And if you kept him, his staff next year is either going to be the same as it is now or worse. Why would anybody with any options come here knowing it's a 1-year assignment? The coach is on the hot seat, and he's hard to work for. He's combustible.
Oh
no, Ryan, we lost you. All right, well, hope we get him back. By the way, guys, that's really, really interesting that he thinks that Shane, that he's on board with Shane staying, or thinks that Shane would stay and Daboll would go, because
that's what we've been saying that, Greg, for like a month, that we could see that happen. Mara will halfway it, right? He'll halfway it, not totally rip it down, but let Shane stay the course, because Daboll going into that 5th year or 4th year next year, now you tie him to the new quarterback. Now what?
Hey, Zach.
And if you do that,
Zach, send a tweet at Ryan Dunleavy. Tell him to drop out and come back in. Or I can DM him too. I don't know if splitting them up. I don't know. I
think whenever you lost, it's going to be less of that happening. They go 2-15. I don't know if they can keep both. And if Shane does stay, does that mean
why is Shane getting the pass when it seems like Daboll's doing all the work?
Well, crap rolls downhill, right? So
yes, it does. Crap roll does. But Ryan, before I lost you, I was saying to Chris and the mic was it's interesting because I'm wondering why does Shane get the pass? Because Daboll seems like he's doing all the hard work.
So a couple things. One is I forgot. I don't know where you guys lost me in the middle of my rant, but I was just saying Daboll is
hard to work for, combustible.
Correct. So his staff next year would be less than ideal, I think. So like, I don't even know if I believe that, but that would be the case to split them up, right? Why does Shane get the pass? A couple things. And again, his draft class this year looks good. If you had me on December 23rd, 2022, we'd be raving about that year's draft class. And people forget that. Like everybody was like, oh, look at this draft class. Dane Belton's a contributor and Bellinger's a contributor and Evan Neal's a starter and Kayvon looks promising. And 2 years later, everybody's down on that draft class. So like, tell me what this draft class looks like on 2026. But why does he get to say mostly, guys? Because it's a really, really complex thing to fire your general manager, right? Like you now have to fire all your scouts. You have new processes, new like ideas, new philosophies, new draft board ways, new everything, all your ideologies, everything about that is new. And like, again, I think that would be a good thing for the Giants because I think they've gotten a lot of stuff wrong. But firing your coach, the best way I can put this, and this is no disrespect meant to Brian Daboll, but Brian Daboll has not distinguished himself in any regard. Why is Brian Daboll better than right now? Why is Brian Daboll a better option than Bobby Slowick, the Texans offensive coordinator, or Clint Kubiak, the Saints offensive coordinator, or McCown, the Vikings offensive coordinator? Forget Ben Johnson. He's obviously not better than Ben Johnson. But like anybody else's offensive coordinator, why is he a better option? Like, if anything, those guys are just Brian Daboll 2024. Like who Daboll was before he got hired, the offensive coordinator of the machine offense of the top team is just like basically Bobby Slowick is like the offensive coordinator of the Texans. It's just like Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator of the Bills 2 years ago. So like, I already know Brian Daboll's warts as a head coach. Might as well find out some other guys' strengths and weaknesses. So like generic, like he hasn't done like his playbook isn't creative. He hasn't developed quarterback here. He's a bland frontward facing person. Like the fans who listen to the press conferences, well, they don't get any answers, so they get frustrated. So like he never explains anything. So like I'm not sure what he's done to distinguish himself in any way. So you just bring in the next guy who's basically got the same profile. If we need to develop a quarterback, why is Brian Daboll a better option than Bobby Slowick? I don't know. Bringing in a new general manager is an organizational shift.
Okay.
Whether that's a good thing or not, it is. So like, it's up to you to decide, do you want one or not? But it's a much bigger process. Swapping out Joe Shane for Ray Agnew is a much bigger deal than swapping out Brian Daboll for Bobby Slowick.
Okay, and that's a great answer, by the way. Great answer. That's exactly what I was looking for. I feel really good with that answer. But two things that you said, I just wrote them down, is about distinguishing himself. And then again, I'm not looking to keep Brian Daboll. I'm just looking for your thought. Is it he can't distinguish himself because he doesn't have a real quarterback? Because
I think the number one reason Brian Daboll looks like a bad coach is because the roster is not good.
Roster or the quarterback?
The roster, the whole roster.
Roster's not his fault, right?
No, I mean, but if it's collaborative, it's part his fault. Like if everything, like if I'm gonna kill the front office for these decisions, and Brian Daboll wants to be collaborative, then I gotta say Brian Daboll's got some hand of the rough. Put it this way, I know for a fact that Brian Daboll didn't go in there and say, I want Saquon Barkley, keep Saquon Barkley. He was like, I got Motor, I got Devin Singletary. Well, you brought in Devin Singletary and you guys wasted $5 million, basically. That's what you did.
$10 million and throw Locke on the pile too.
Yeah. So and that there you go. That's Saquon Barkley's money.
Thanks.
Ryan, how much of an indictment is it going into the season with your quarterback coming off an ACL and for all intensive purposes, Locke beating the Eagles last year play a part and then bringing Locke in instead of an upgrade, even if they kept the Tyrod Taylor. But that's an indictment as well by rolling the dice with a Locke as your backup when there were guys out there that they could have brought in.
That's, again, everybody's like, why can't this regime should get to pick a quarterback? Why? I mean, why? Why should they get to pick a quarterback? They decided Daniel Jones was worth $160 million. They got that wrong. They decided Drew Lock was their backup quarterback. They got that wrong. They decided Tommy DeVito should start over Drew Lock when Daniel Jones got cut. They got that wrong. Why should they start? Because the whole world saw in Hard Knocks that they thought Drake May and Jaden Daniels were good. Everybody thought Drake May and Jaden Daniels were good. That's why they went 2-3. Daboll wasn't like, we need Bo Nix. We need Bo Nix. McAdoo was standing on a table for Patrick Mahomes. Standing on a table. The Giants didn't go up and get him. That's an evaluation. That's like a wow, this guy saw something. Like, you know, let me tell you, I'm going to put, in case you want to hire me as a GM, I think Arch Manning is really good. Okay. Like, is that going out on a limb? Like, if some guy in 1983 was, some guy in 1998 was like, Peyton Manning's the guy. Yeah, no, everybody thought Peyton Manning was the guy.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that.
Not San Diego.
You know who got it right? The Dolphins in 1983 when they picked Dan Marino 30th. That's an evaluation.
Yeah, hands down. Or I mean, I don't know how much evaluation went into Tom Brady, but that worked out too.
Yeah. That's an evaluation.
Interesting. The other question I had on the two-parter was you were talking about, and I'll put the bow on the Daboll thing. But you were talking about that he's kind of bland, right? That he does. Aren't they all that way? I literally said to Chris, Chris, did I not talk to you about the Andy Reid coaches show? So Ryan, I lived down in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, and I worked for CBS Broadcasting for a dozen years. The sister station to WFAN, I worked for WIP. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's a sports talk radio in Philadelphia, right? Yeah, and I mean, we did the Andy Reid coaches show, okay, every single Monday. Andy was a good guy, but he was the master at saying the same thing. And before anybody was doing this, Reid was doing it. I blame myself. Mm-hmm. It's my fault. I didn't prepare my guys. It's my fault. My coaches didn't have enough, the right information to win. Like I was like, and after a while, they just tuned them out. So, and now, 20 years later, they all do the same thing. Are we expecting now?
I don't agree. I don't agree with that, actually. I don't agree with that.
No, well, that's why I'm asking, do we expect him to be more animated or forthright?
It's not even animated. Just be forthcoming. Just say, why'd you go for that fourth down versus this fourth down? Well, our analytics said there's a 3-point set better win probability if you get this fourth down compared to if you kick the field goal. Okay. There's a reason. There's a reason for that. Okay. Yeah. Why is Jalen Hyatt not playing? Well, he still has to sharpen his route tree, or I'm just making something up.
Yeah,
right?
Learn the playbook. Yeah,
this is not like some great reveal here or something. You know what I mean? Like, but everything is. I understand the question. That's what we think is the best for the team. Like, that's not making anybody happy, right? That the fans get frustrated with that. The media gets frustrated with that. Like, again, you can be like Joe Judge came from Bill Belichick. The joke was always like, Joe Judge has thought out. Joe Judge knows exactly why he eats at 3:13 every afternoon. Like, he had a well thought out explanation for everything he possibly did. I'm sure Brian Daboll does too. The difference is Joe Judge told you exactly what it was. It didn't work out any better for Joe Judge than it's worked out for Brian Daboll, but at least you could think along with him. Like, this is what he's going to do. This is what my coach believes in. Like, that happens. Robert Saleh was open about everything. He went too far in the other direction for the Jets. He shared too much. He got himself in trouble. There is a fine line. You don't want to throw your players under the bus. You don't want to give away competitive advantages, but you have to give people something. After these games, fans are, I don't have to tell you guys are fans. Fans are ready to pull their hair out. Why did we do this? Why did we do that? And you turn into the post-game show and it's, that's what we thought was best for the team. Well, no, of course you thought that was best for the team. That's why you did it. But why did you think that was best for the team?
Truth, go ahead, jump in here. I know you got another question.
No, I'm just listening to a lot of stuff, and it just seems to me, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. It just seems to me that if they continue to lose, I don't think anybody's keeping their job. I think they have to clean house. And I should say love, but I really like Joe Shane. Very personal guy and everything. But
can I interrupt? Why do you like Joe Shane? Tell what?
I like his demeanor.
Yes, I would agree with you that he's a personable guy.
Yeah.
Why do you think he should keep the job?
I don't think he should keep the job.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm curious what the argument is.
Yeah. No, I don't. If they finish 2-15, which is pretty good odds they will, you just can't keep them. You can't keep the staff. You have to get clean house and just show the fans you're committed to make this organization what it used to be.
I don't even think I would. So this, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here for a sec. So the argument I can't stand for keeping Daboll and Gettleman, Daboll and Shane is Gettleman got 4 years, so you got to give Shane 4 years. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Just because you made a mistake keeping Gettleman that long doesn't mean you should make the same mistake just to give him equal time. Or you got to keep Daboll because you can't keep cycling through coaches every 2 years. If you hired Brian Daboll and knew in 2 weeks that he was the wrong coach, you should fire him in 2 weeks. You can't keep him because you messed up or regret firing Shermer and McAdoo so fast. One shouldn't have anything to do with the other. They're totally independent evaluations. So I can't stand the idea that you have to give them more just because these guys, because 6 years ago, you fired Pat Shermer after 2 years. So you have to keep Brian Daboll to show continuity. If it's the wrong continuity, who wants to be continuous?
Sure.
And I was going to talk out of both sides of my mouth because I feel like there's something else I was going to say about history. Oh, that said, I don't think I keep forgetting where I was going. It popped in my head. I'll interrupt one of you guys. Go ahead. Ask the
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. Like I said, I'm torn both ways on who stays and who goes. Why? Because I can make a case for either one, right?
What's the case? Tell me what's the case?
All right. So Shane strikes me as a guy who might have bit off more than he can chew with this job and in this market. And I feel he's a very slow learner. He's making a ton of mistakes, but I feel like he's getting better. It's just very slow. It's kind of like the Titanic you know what I mean? Titanic's got a little rudder and it's going to hit the iceberg because it can't turn fast enough. Shane should be able to turn and pivot faster and make better decisions, and he doesn't. So I'm wondering if it's just lack of experience because, again, yes, he's personable. I don't really care, right?
Yeah.
I do love the draft class this year. You know what I mean? I really like that. He got all that money off the books. He restructured Dexter. He did trade for Burns, right? There is a couple pieces Okereke was a big piece. There is some things that I'm okay, I see it. He took them out of the Stone Ages by creating the new draft process and that stuff, right?
That's probably, I'm not sure I agree with anything you said up until that.
Oh, man,
I respect it. I mean, I respect it. I just don't agree with it. But I respect what you said. And that probably is the argument. I would just argue everything. He brought them out of the Stone Ages thing is probably true. I just don't know how much any fan cares about that. I find it interesting that you said
they have to care because they killed Gettleman all those years because they said everything he did was ass backwards and built in the 70s. So this guy's come along and brought you into the modern era. It just didn't work out. So now you ask yourself, well, did it matter?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best argument. Art Stapleton at the Bergen Record, that's basically his argument all the time is the process is behind the scenes. And it's Okay, if you're willing to buy into that, that's probably the best argument. It's like the behind the scenes processes that Joe Shane has brought to the Giants. I'm not sure any 41-year-old or whatever GM wouldn't have brought those same processes, but that's probably the best argument for keeping them. It's a hard sell because it's like the fan doesn't care about processes. Like, what is my team doing? What are my players? Like you mentioned, Okereke, Burns. Like, is this team better than the 2021 team, guys? You tell me. Tell me you're more optimistic about it. I'll rip off some names. The 21
Chris, you
team.
take that because
I do think.
Let me rip off the names, and then you tell me if it's better. The 21 team that he inherited in March had Evan Ingram, Jabril Peppers, Logan Ryan, Xavier McKinney, Leonard Williams, Saquon Barkley, James Bradbury. They didn't win. So like that team obviously was like that team didn't produce. So I'm not saying keep that team together. I'm just saying let's use Jets terms. Their Madden ratings are a lot better than this team's Madden ratings.
Yeah, and roster wise, you're probably right when you look at those players, Ryan. Obviously, the elephant in the room was Daniel Jones, and not Giants not be able to score points. But Ryan, I think the one thing with Joe Shane, I think this may be the reason why Mara keeps Shane is he's been good in the personnel department area with guys off the street, Fabian Moreau, Nick McLeod, Isaiah Hodgins, Pinnock, clearing waivers. I think the guys that he pinpoints or targets, Tyree Phillips, that get jettisoned from other teams, I think he does a fairly good job with those guys. And there's a part of me that believes Mara is going to halfway it, because he doesn't have it in him to just tear it all down and wants to let Shane ride it out with a new regime. And it seems like, looking back at the history, these GMs seem to get their next coach. They get that second try. When you look at a Reese, a Gettleman, they seem to get that second coach. So although they're buddies, I feel like there is a little bit of I would say a pass, but there's a little bit more room of error for Shane to get that to go into next year.
Two things.
Real quick. Real quick. If they do keep Shane, Chris and Ryan, do you think Mara will have a lot of say on who Shane brings in for the next head coach?
That's a terrific question. I think yes. I think very much so. Last time he was very hands-off in the process. Mm-hmm. I think very much so he will be very hands-on in the who's the next head coach process. Terrific.
And Ryan, is this right? A flashback with Joe Judge. Gettleman really didn't want a Joe Judge, and that was really a Mara call, right, with Joe Judge.
Correct. That is correct. Yep. So two things. That's how when I said I was talking out of both sides of my mouth, that's the point I was going to make, is that I just said history shouldn't matter at all with, how quickly you let go of Shermer, how long a leash you gave Gettleman. But I don't love the history that he fired McAdoo or fired Coughlin, kept Reese, and then ended up firing Reese, fired Shermer, kept Gettleman. That ended up being a disaster. Like, this will be the third time that he fires the coach and keeps the GM. I don't love the history of that. And then the other thing, you made a good point. I agree with you. And in 2022, I would have said that was Joe Shane's biggest strength. The Pinnocks and the McLeods and the Tyree Phillips. He hasn't really done that since 2020. Like, all those guys were that first year. Who's the waiver wire guy he brought in who's had a big impact since that first year? Yep. I don't know that there is one. And also, that's a great skill to have on a winning team to finish it off. You can't build your team on the Pinnocks and Tyree Phillips. That's how you supplement a team. So, Joe Shane, that would be a great skill for Joe Shane to bring the Chiefs or the Bills or the, Lions, but that's not how you build a team.
So let's say Daboll goes, Mara's involved with the new head coach. Does Bowen go too? Because Bowen is to me a colossal failure here. I mean, a colossal failure.
Yeah, you're striking a nerve. So you're striking a nerve. So yes, obviously, if the head coach goes, the defensive coordinator is going to go, unless the new head coach is Mike Vrabel, who Shane Bowen spent 3 years with. He might keep if he's the new Giants coach, he might keep Shane Bowen. A couple things. Number one, Shane Bowen was like the Giants' 7th choice for defensive coordinator, right? So like, they couldn't get their first, that might be an exaggeration. Let's say 4th or 5th choice. They couldn't get their first 3 or 4 choices.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they get their first 3 or 4 choices? Because of Daboll's relationship with Wink Martindale. People were like, I don't know if I want to work for this guy. Mm-hmm. So like, that's Daboll's fault that Shane Bowen's here, not anybody else's fault. And then number 2, they're like the 18th best defense, right? Like, that's not great, but like, they're the 32nd offense. Like, the problem with this team is the offense, not the defense. The defense hasn't been good. I can see why you don't like Shane Bowen. He's a downgrade over Wink Martindale. But the reason he's a downgrade over Wink Martindale is because Wink, and he's not blameless, Wink is just as much to blame as Daboll. They couldn't get along. That's a two-way street. Wink is not easy to work for. There's a reason he didn't get another NFL job. So, but like, the reason they downgraded a defensive coordinator is partly because of the head coach. And the reason they stink is because they have the 32nd ranked offense, not because they have the 18th ranked defense.
Yeah, I know. Well, again, it all falls apart, right?
And they have there's no overall stat, but they got to have close to the 32nd ranked special teams.
Yeah, and to your point, Ryan, as much as the head coach is one of the, the biggest spot they're going to fill, that offensive coordinator's got to be just as important. Who is that guy going to bring in?
That's why it almost has to be an offensive. That's why it almost has to be an offensive coach. Like, with all due respect to Aaron Glenn or Brian Flores or Vrabel, it almost has to be an offensive coach, because you're going to have somebody develop a young quarterback, unless you hire a defensive coordinator. You want a young coach, you want a Giants guy, you want somebody who's done it with young quarterbacks. I give you offensive coordinator Davis Webb.
As the coach?
As an offensive coordinator.
You don't see.
If you want Vrabel, or you want Aaron Glenn, or you want who's going to develop my young quarterback, how about the guy who's hitting a freaking home run with Bo Nix?
By the way, nobody saw that coming.
With Davis Webb did.
Yeah.
Sean Payton did.
Sean Payton did,
yeah. And I will tell you, and I know Jordan Renan has the same info. Somebody has said to me, I don't want to overstate this, but one of the big differences between Daniel Jones now and Daniel Jones 2022 was not having Davis Webb in the room with him. Another coach who we could talk to, who saw things differently. Remember, Davis was the guy who did all those reports for Eli as a rookie. Like, not a big reason Daniel took a step back was not having Davis Webb on the side to work with day after day. So
interesting.
So Ryan, how big is his name going to be in the offseason throughout the NFL? Word gets out, and what he's done is he going to probably potentially get a job? I would be
shocked if he's not getting offensive coordinator requests left and right. So now, look, he might not leave. He's in a good spot. Sean Payton, Bo Nix. Yet I think Ben Johnson set the blueprint for guys. Like, don't just take any job. Don't just take head coach off of whatever your next promotion is. Don't just take any job. Mike LaFleur or whatever with the Rams. He's not the play caller now because Sean McVay is, but like, he jumped to take the Jets offensive coordinator job, got fired in 2 years because he couldn't develop Zach Wilson. His name was Mud. He got bailed out by his brother's buddy, Sean McVay. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, Mike LaFleur might be a really bright guy. Well, why? Because he's the Rams offensive coordinator working under Sean McVay, whose coaching tree is magic. So like, Davis, if he got a good job, I think he would probably take it, but he probably also should be a little bit selective. Don't just jump at any job. So I think his name will be hot. I just think if you're looking, who is a Glenn or a Vrabel or a here's another guy the Giants could, if Joe Shane's running the point, he hasn't coached in 2 years, but he was a interview for this job last year. Last time it was open. How about Leslie Frazier as the Giants head coach? Like, he's been there, done that. That would appeal to John Mara, I think. He's worked with Joe Shane before.
Interesting. That's good.
And guess who else he's worked with? Davis Webb in Buffalo. So
I can't see Mara hiring another first-time head coach. I think that ship has sailed.
So there you go. So there's Leslie Frazier, former Vikings head coach. Now, I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying that's a name that you probably won't see on most lists that could make some sense.
Is there any shot they give Spags a call?
Do I think he would get an interview? I think maybe, but I think that I don't even know if Giants fans would want. You tell me, would Giants? I'm talking to Giants fans. Would you guys want that? Like, isn't it that part of like the family and going in reverse and like, aren't like?
I can't speak for all Giants fans, but like the team is soft. Like the team is just soft. I think every Giants fan will tell you that this is the softest team they have ever seen play. And Chris, Truth, jump in here, but like having someone like a guy that's known for physicality, whether just a defensive coordinator coming here like Vrabel, Spags, like they pump out great defenses. Just this team needs to get back to physical play. They just soft. They can't get off
Craig,
the field.
I think you got to know who is his. And I would love Spags because the defense would get straightened out. But the guy who would be his offensive coordinator? That would be the important question.
Hold on. I love Spags. Okay, I'm the guy who found the stat last year that every outlet in the world used that he is the first coordinator to win 4 Super Bowls. I love the guy. He also oversaw 2 of the worst Giants defenses of all time, right?
Sure, that's going to happen.
Yeah, so I don't know that the defense. I mean, you still need players, right? He had a great Giants defense when he had like Osi Umenyiora and Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan and Antonio Pierce, and he knew how to use them. And he had a terrible Giants defense when he had whoever was on like the 14 or 15 Giants.
Even his Rams team was terrible.
Yeah, and you feel like he got shortchanged here because they were moving to LA. They were cheap over there, and he was a short leash.
I think he's a super nice guy. I don't think they'd be an embarrassment. I just don't know if that's like your elevated coach. And I also feel like it's a little bit of going backwards, and like I just don't know. Like the Giants need to go forwards.
Okay. I just don't want – if they bring in another rookie head coach, it's just going to be the same mistakes again and again.
I don't think he can afford to do this.
It's not a great crop of coaching candidates. It's not. It's like Vrabel or bust. So,
yeah.
Is that your opinion? Vrabel's the guy?
I mean, I think of all the guys out there, he's probably the surest bet. Yeah. But again, if I was on, Jets Rush, I'd say the same thing. If I was on Bears Rush, I'd say the same. There's no reason to pick the Giants over anybody else. I tweeted this the other day. I think the Giants are probably the least appealing job there is. Why do you want to come here? Because of 100 years of franchise history? Because if you win in New York, you're like a king? That sounds great, but like the team's not very good. There's obviously an incredibly high expectations. Like you have no quarterback. It's not a great quarterback class. The only reason to come here is if you are like Shedeur and Cam Ward are great. And I haven't heard anybody say that yet.
Really? Okay.
Ryan, in terms of a bridge quarterback, could you see a guy like Derek Carr, who I believe is owed like $10 million March 15th? Even Cousins, I'm not sure about Cousins, but Derek Carr strikes me as his brother being here. There's the relationship with Eli. I mean, could you see a Derek Carr being the bridge type quarterback?
I've been saying since May that I thought Cousins could be the guy, but yeah, I hadn't thought about Derek Carr. My gut is he's probably still the Saints quarterback next year because they've won 5 games. So they're not going to be in great position to draft somebody. And they've done the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round thing too many times. So, but yeah, if he was available, sure. The guy I would target is Justin Fields. So I don't know. Maybe everybody's going to target Justin Fields.
If you target Justin Fields, you're not drafting a QB because you're going to have QB.
Correct. Well, I wouldn't draft the QB.
So that would lead me to believe that you're not a fan of Sanders or Ward.
I haven't seen them enough. I just am going off my conversations I've had with scouts. At some point in March, I'll be able to answer that for my own views. I'm just going off conversations I've had with scouts that are like they'd be the 4th or 5th best quarterback in last year's class. It's like, well, okay, Bo Nix was 6th best quarterback in last year's class, and he's good, so it can be done. But I would be a little wary of picking Matt Miller from ESPN, I think has him 17th and 18th in the class. I'd be a little wary of picking the 17th best player in a draft class, number 1 overall.
So Ryan, I'm going to jump into the next question. Are you in favor then of the Giants trade back?
Yeah, yeah. But again, all this matters, like who's the coach and the GM. If the coach and the GM are these guys, trading back is not an option. They're going to be under so much pressure, they have to pick him, which is another reason that I'm like, you know what? You get a fresh set of eyes, and if they pick Sanders and Ward, then they really believe in them because they don't have to pick Sanders or Ward. They have the timeline to be like, oh, we could push this off to next year. We don't believe in guys. But yeah, I mean, again, it's hard for me to say because I haven't done enough work on Ward or Sanders to know what they really are. But like, yes, to me, if I could get value for the number 1 pick, I think the Giants are so far off that like I would love to like collect future first-round picks so that next year, here's just my perfect scenario, regardless of who the GM and coach are. My perfect scenario, I finish with the number 1 pick. I trade back to 6. I get a first-round pick next year, maybe a second this year, a 4th next year. I get more picks. I can pick Will Johnson, the Michigan corner. He's my corner 1 this year. I go with Justin Fields for this season. I go 6-11 or 7-10 next year, and I'm drafting 10th, but I have extra first-round picks, and I can move up in the 2026 draft for the quarterback I truly want, who early projections are the 26 draft class will be better than the 25 draft class. So I'm in love with insert guy here, Drew Allaire or the Tennessee quarterback or the LSU Garrett Nussmeier. And I'm like, Garrett Nussmeier's my guy. I got the ammo. I got Will Johnson. I'm moving up from 10 to 2, and I'm picking Garrett Nussmeier, and I'm going for it.
I do like Nussmeier, by the way.
And I don't know. I'm just using him as a name.
Yeah. That's interesting take. Big time.
But Joe Shane can't do that because he won't be here in 2 years. So he has to pick his guy now.
Yeah. Yeah, the pressure would be enormous to draft that quarterback, without a doubt. If a new guy comes in, though, right, and he does, let's say, subscribe to your philosophy, he's got to know that he's got a quarterback ready to pull the trigger on a guy in free agency. Like, he's got to have – that's the first rule of business. Gets the job, and he gets a free agent quarterback. There's no way he's going to go to bat with Locke and –
No, but free agency's first, so you would have to go get your – and when I see – I don't – with all due respect, I don't need Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston or Jacoby Brissett. I've seen all of those guys.
You need a guy that can win.
I don't even need to win big. Justin, I just need a guy I can find out something about. I know everything there is to know about how good Jacoby Brissett is. Let me find out how good Justin Fields.
It's Cousins, it's Carr, or it's Russell Wilson, and he's not leaving Pittsburgh.
Yeah, or to me, it's Justin Fields. It's not Sam Darnold. I do not want to be the guy to give Sam Darnold 4 years and $200 million.
No.
Yeah, New York.
He's going to stay with Minnesota. They're going to stay together, I think.
I don't know. I think Minnesota's quarterbacks next year are J.J. McCarthy and Daniel Jones.
Well, let me ask you this: they are toe-to-toe with Detroit right now. If they go with J.J. McCarthy and Daniel Jones, they're going to take steps back. They're not going to compete with Detroit then.
Sure, but you can take steps back if you eventually take steps forward, right? Like,
what's their roster look like? What's the age? I mean, can they afford 2 years to take a step back, or is it now?
I can't say I'm a Minnesota expert. I don't know the answer to that. But like, if the roster is going to be worse with Sam Darnold making $50 million than it is with Daniel.
You have him on the
Jones.
rookie contract, so you'll get 4 more years.
It's going to be worse with with Sam Darnold making $50 million than it is going to be.
You think Darnold's going to get $50 million?
I don't think
he was going to get close to Baker's deal at like 35.
That's what I think, like 35, 30 something.
Yeah, you think so, Ryan? Okay.
50 might be high. I'll bet you guys dinner on 45.
All right. Well, I think we already got a dinner in the works. So, all right.
Peter Luger.
All right. So let me ask you this, and then I'll let you go. Because I appreciate this is fantastic, by the way. I guess I'll go around the horn. I'll ask something. I'll let you guys ask a quick question. Just keep them brief for them. Question would be is any thought, any buzz on Antonio Pierce? It's very high. It's unlikely he keeps that gig, out there on the West Coast. It's just highly unlikely. What's your thought about him coming as a defensive coordinator if they were to look at one?
I mean, I guess it's possible. What has he done to distinguish himself? Like, he was a great Giants player. Like, he was a college defensive coordinator. The Raiders defense is great. I would feel like if I was the head coach who had to hire him, I would feel like and maybe this is my own insecurity, I would feel very wary of him undermining me. That, like, he's the Giants legend, my right-hand man. He has the relationships in the building. Like, my first slip up, are people going to be like, we should just have put Pierce in the job? Like, he's got experience. I would be very wary of that if I was making a hire. Interesting. All right, go ahead, Chris. And that's not an indictment on Antonio Pierce. That's more me projecting, like, I'm not saying he would undermine people. I'm just saying there would as soon as the Giants had the first 3-game losing streak, people would be like, get Ben Johnson out of here and just put Antonio Pierce in the job. He led us to we'll be wearing black suits to games and that's the reason why I worry about, like, not the exact same scenario, but like if Ward or Sanders is the guy, the baggage that comes with Sanders feels so heavy. I mean, it just feels so heavy. He was complaining last week, which blew my mind, that he wasn't like raving how Hunter won the Heisman. He was complaining that he didn't win in a landslide. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
He won the Heisman.
That's standing up for his best buddy. Like,
yeah.
He wasn't complaining that he didn't win it. So
no,
I know. What reminds me of, what Deion Sanders? I worry about he'd be like, what was that guy's name? Lorenzo Ball? Is that the
Lonzo Ball? Yeah,
Alonzo Ball, the father.
No, that's a good comparison.
That's what bothers me with Deion Sanders.
Well, hey, look, if you're getting rid of Brian Daboll, are you interviewing Deion Sanders to be your head coach?
No, dude, I'll sell my season tickets tomorrow.
Why? Why?
No,
I'm not doing that. The daddy ball got to stop somewhere.
Huh?
The daddy ball has to stop somewhere.
Okay. I would give him an interview. I mean, he's done a good job there. He's the only coach his son has ever had. So if you want the son to succeed, like, that's probably the best shot.
Yeah, but you're also saying he can't succeed without his dad.
I'd give him an interview.
Courtesy. Give him a courtesy interview.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Am I going to Chris?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, me? Back in 2015, the Giants, Jerry Reese, he spent a lot of money in free agency to turn that team around, and it worked. Right? 11-6, right?
Good question.
Can you see them doing that again this year? Out of desperate, right?
Save their job. Save Shane's job.
Again, that's another reason if you bring Joe Shane back. Just like I said, you have to pick a quarterback. He's going to go on a spending spree because he's got to save his job. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, the next guy's going to be like, I inherited salary cap hell. All these terrible players that I don't want. This is a 5-year rebuild. Like,
he better sign T. Higgins tomorrow.
Hey, Ryan,
another show. I have to talk about that.
Ryan, putting Joe Shane aside for a second, by all accounts, Daboll hasn't won any Super Bowls. You see him at Hard Knocks to feed up the cigar. Did that sour anything with Mara? What's that relationship that you have heard, the Daboll and Mara relationship post Hard Knocks?
I don't think I've heard that before. That from like fans and media. Like, I don't think that really bothered John Mara. I could be wrong. I don't think that. I think John Mara knew exactly who Brian Daboll is. Like, the cigar smoking. It was lovable the first year, right? Like, it was like, look at this every man you want to have a beer with and a cigar. So, like, no, I don't think that put his feet up and all in the office. Like, I don't know, that's who he is.
Yeah, but I'm only bringing it up because he's in an interview with a potential first-round pick. And
I mean,
was that more of a mind game or more of a strategic move that way?
That's Daboll's choice on how to be relatable. It's kind of like how he FaceTimes guys. That's him. That's a 48-year-old guy trying to find his place with a 22-year-old guy.
And that's why I asked, because Mara obviously is an older guy. How does he perceive that? Is this something?
Look, I'm going to say this. I know this is wildly unpopular, John Mara wants to win so bad,
Right.
as badly as you guys want to win, triple it, put it all together. He wants to win so bad. The idea that he doesn't want to win is like, or it's like, it's insane. He spends he'll throw money at any problem. He'll try anything to win. So like,
Right.
I don't think what bothers him about Brian Daboll is that they never win, that they don't score any points. That's what bothers him.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. It just adds more fuel to the fire. Like you act like, you've been there and you haven't won anything, and here's our worst year in 100 years.
Yeah, that's what bothers him about Brian Daboll. Not if they were 12-4, he could put his feet. He could put his feet on John Mara's desk if he wanted to.
Hey, that's why Bill Belichick can get away with those post-game interviews, because he's won.
Yeah, I don't think any of that. I think that's all overblown. I think
Okay.
John just wants to win. I've had coaches who worked here in the past tell me the Giants want to win so bad that it's all just about how do we win the next game? How do we win this year? That's one of their problems, is they have no foresight. It's never about like, how do we build this sustainable? What's best for the long-term plan? It's all about like, we have to beat the Bengals this week. And it's like, well, how about we start the guy who is going to be the 10-year starter and let him grow into the position or whatever. Like, it's so focused on winning today. And that's probably why they don't win today enough.
If they don't, because you had mentioned you like Fields, you think Fields has some moxie. If Fields is unobtainable, who's your next guy?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'll tell you, somebody said to me, this is going to be wildly unpopular. I said to somebody, I think we all agree, if the Giants are not drafting a quarterback in the first round, like they're going to draft a quarterback, but if somehow they end up drafting Travis Hunter and then Carson Beck in round 2, like who is the guy who is next year Sam Darnold? That's what they need. They don't need this year Sam Darnold. They need to find next year Sam Darnold. And 2 names came to me. The first one is impossible. It's Daniel Jones. They can't sign Daniel Jones. Somebody else is going to sign Daniel Jones and think that he is the next Sam Darnold, like the guy who has some starting experience, who just needs a change of scenery, who learned from Kevin O'Connell the last couple of years. Like the Titans are going to sign Daniel Jones and think he's the next Sam Darnold. Whether he is or not, I don't know. The other guy,
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence isn't going anywhere. They owe him $55 million. He's not going anywhere. Carson Wentz is the other guy.
We've talked about him. Yeah.
We did this whole show on the top 10 free agent quarterbacks, right? And I have by the way, just coincidentally, I have it here in order. If you go by success, right? Darnold, Fields, Winston, Flacco, Mac Jones, Dalton, Wentz, Mariota, Tannehill, and Rudolph. Those were statistically your top 10. And Tannehill, by the way, could be a connection with Vrabel.
Tannehill's been out of the league all year, right?
Yes. That's, you can look at that either way. You can look at it like he's healthy and he's in shape or not. Who knows? But those are your top 10 guys. I mean, Wentz, the fans went bonkers, Ryan. Bonkers on the show. Look, there's right now, you can't see it from where you're sitting, but I have the dashboard in front of me. There's 654 people in here watching this interview on Twitter. And I am telling you, these people went bonkers because we said that Carson Wentz, when he was with the Eagles, he was on the pace for an MVP year, got hurt, right? And can run the RPO. He can scramble. He's got a good arm. Everybody was like, over my dead body, he's washed. Do not bring that guy. Well, I'm
not sure I disagree with them. I'm just saying that somebody I trust who knows stuff a lot better than I do said Carson Wentz might be that guy. He started before. He's had success. Yeah. He was just under Andy Reid and Sean McVay. You can't have better mentors. So
interesting. I think the fans would absolutely hate it.
Oh, so do I.
But I hear you, because I keep going on the body of work, because that Cousins still win. Cousins can win. Cousins can definitely groom a young QB.
That's probably who I would pick. If you're asking me, that's who I would pick.
Yeah.
That's who I pick.
What I don't understand is how Atlanta's going to cut him. He's got like a $65 million dead cap number.
I think they're going to trade him, and I don't know what their debt is, but the team that acquires him will give up like a 7th round pick for $27
They
million.
reported today twice that they were going to cut him, and I can't understand how they can do that. He's got a $65 million dead cap number.
Yeah,
Spread that 2 years, I guess. Right?
I guess so, and it might even be higher, right?
Yeah.
But I saw it twice today. They said that Cousins was going to get released, and I'm like, how? How is that possible?
Well, it says down here he has a no trade clause. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yes,
but that's fine.
that just means he'll pick where he goes. So
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
guys, I gotta run.
Yeah, I know.
Ryan, thank you.
I'll let you go, Ryan. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. You know, we'll definitely hit you back in the summertime when all this kind of breaks loose to have you on.
No, Craig, we're gonna get together after the season.
Yeah,
Ryan, we owe you a meal.
Sounds good.
All right, Ryan.
As I told you before, I don't miss dinner. So
no, Ryan, you're always good to us, my friend. I'll be in touch.
I'll see you guys.
All right, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate
you guys stay. You can end the stream though, Zach.
I'll tell you one thing.
You can't handle the truth.
I love it. All right, gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys like the interview. There's 666 of you that have dropped into the show tonight, so thank you very much. I want to give a shout-out to Michelle, Mark Thompson, K-Mac, Drew over at Goofballs, Rise. There's a ton of you guys in here. Nemesis, K-Mac, there's Tom, I don't see Tuto today, and I don't see Cold. I got to roll through it. I see Elo's in here. I see Bill's in here. There's a ton of you guys in here dropping in comments. King GT's in here.
K-Mac,
in here. What's that?
K-Mac, did you say his name already?
K-Mac and Kelly dropped in. Bill, of course, he's an OG. I'm trying not to leave anybody out. There's just so many people dropping in here with comments. Michael Guerrero's in here. So thank you guys for all hanging out. Do appreciate it. We do the show for you guys. So we try to give you guys the best content as possible. If you're not aware, on Wednesdays, we're doing preview shows. That's going to wind up being the draft show come around February, right? January, we're just going to we do Rush. Wednesday, we'll add Rush Hour back on with Mike. Truth basically spearheads that show, and we'll do a draft show, right? And then, of course, on draft, if you guys are new to the show, we do Customer Appreciation Night, where I put on, during the draft, we put on 60 to 70 fans of the show. So we always have that. I got a fantasy football winner that's going to win an autographed jersey. I just got to get an update from Spartan on who is the winner, because I think it's either next week or this week is the playoffs. So I should have a winner on the fantasy football. Again, happy Grangier, I missed you, buddy. Sorry about that. Yeah, 100%, guys. Appreciate all you guys. We do the show for you to bring as much content as we can. If you're new here, please go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Tell your friends. It benefits us. If you're a fan of audio, we're on Apple Pod, Spotify, Stitcher, all that stuff too. And the bank of interviews. One thing we do real super well here, and I'm super proud of it, is our interviews. I mean, I've got from Kurt Warner to Dominic Hickson to Carl Banks to David Wilson, to Chase Blackburn, all the way to the modern guys with Isaiah Hodgins, Dane Belton, Micah McFadden comes on at least twice a year. We've had on Nick Gates, you name it. We had Carl Banks on 2 weeks ago. So we try to give you as best interviews as we can. Appreciate any extra support. Tell your buddies to subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Bang. We appreciate you guys. We are taking off next Monday, which is the 30th. No show. All right. So we're on 50 weeks of the year. So next week is a day off. Enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. We appreciate all you guys. You're very good to us. And, again, keep up the great work out there. Bang. Don't take life too serious. This is, you only get one shot at it. And by the way, I know it's hard. Like, don't fight with everybody. We're frustrated. We got to work together, man. We got to work together as a fan base. What's poppin', Rush? Bang. What's up, Michelle? We will see you guys in 2 weeks. Yes, we will miss you. But again, happy holidays from me and the rest of the team with Alex, Truth, Chris, Spartan, Mike. Shawnee the Joker, we all wish you guys a happy holiday. And again, thanks for sticking with us. Bang. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.